And welcome back to a Standard Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Jono, and as always, my co-host Chris is here. And we're here to bring the Thursday Night Football Breakdown Preview. We're going to be talking about some starts and some sits in this lopsided matchup between the 49ers and the Giants, as well as possible sleepers that you could put in your flex play. Not a ton of them, but we're still going to put them out there. Before we jump into that, there was some news across the NFL that broke a couple hours ago, and this is as of 8:30 p.m. East Coast time on Wednesday night. And I'll let Chris take it away on what this news may be.
Yes, so Cam Akers was traded today from the Rams to the Vikings. We kind of know what the running back situation was in LA. The Rams just weren't using him. He was a healthy scratch from game 2. So it's Kyren Williams' backfield there, but we'll see how this affects Alexander Mattison and the Vikings offense. We'll do a short on it tomorrow. That's going to break down the extent of the trade because as of right now, we don't have the details as what late round draft pick swap there was. So we know that it was for a late round draft pick swap. We just don't know the details of it as of right now. So we'll do a short tomorrow, kind of going over the implications for Madison and for Akers moving forward. This was not a great scenario, I don't think, for him to land. But
for either player, to be honest, for either starting running back. But
yeah, I mean, Kyren Williams is
the true winner of this whole thing.
The true winner of everything here. That being said, before we get started with the starts and sits, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell on the bottom to stay up to date with all of our videos. We'll be releasing our full starts and sits on Saturday morning. Grab your good old cup of joe before the college football games start and sit back and enjoy the video. Don't forget, we do have timestamps on there. So if you did want a specific matchup or a specific team that we're talking about, you can always jump ahead and go and look at that part of the video if that's what you were interested in. So let's get rolling into this Thursday night matchup.
Yeah, so let's start off with the 49ers. And like Chris said, we're actually going to have our timestamps here in chapters so you can scroll along and listen to the players individually as we talk about them if you have a specific guy you want to talk about or listen to. But real quick, before we jump in, I would want to say about Kyren Williams, if he's out there on waivers, somehow in your league, go get him because it is his backfield to lose now in LA. Moving forward, 49ers, Giants, Thursday Night Football. I'm a Giants fan, and it's going to be a struggle for me to get through the entire game tomorrow night. That being said,
Trap
terms
game?
Of... Huh?
Trap game? No.
I don't think so. That being said, here's our starts and sits. Obviously, we've got Brock Purdy in this game because the Giants have struggled to really stop anybody, both on the ground and through the air. They might as well be called FedEx. So Christian McCaffrey's another start here as well. You're firing him up. Deebo Samuel is the wide receiver we're starting. We've had him as a bust candidate prior to the season. We also had him to sit for the first 2 weeks, but that was all being decided if Brandon Ayuk was actually healthy. And when he went down last week with that AC joint sprain and having some discomfort throughout the rest of the game he tried to play through, it became obvious that they were going to start targeting Deebo Samuel, and they did quite often. He had some good opportunities, and he looked a little bit like vintage Deebo. That being said, we have him as a start because of the opportunity he has there. Brandon Ayuk is a game-time decision. Even if he does play, I don't feel comfortable that they're going to be using him because if they get up that early, they may take him out of the game and let him rest. In my opinion, they're probably going to rest him this full game anyway. You're starting Kittle because he's probably one of your top tight ends there. And then this defense is fantastic already this season, and they're facing a offense that is without Saquon Barkley and has really struggled to protect Daniel Jones. They're missing both their left guard and their left tackle out of this game as well. So look for there to be sacks left and right from the San Francisco 49ers defense.
The guy obviously I want to start if I have McCaffrey and I'm a McCaffrey owner, he's an instant start there. But the guy I really want to start here is Kittle. I do think Kittle's in line for a big game here. I do think Ayuk, even if he does go and he's a game-time decision, this is kind of what Jono and I were discussing off camera, was that this is going to be a win for the Niners. I don't think this is a trap game. I think that the Niners are going to hand the Giants the second loss of the season pretty easily. and they don't need Brandon Ayuk to do that. It's week 3 in the season. They are trying to win a championship here in San Francisco. And so in order to do that, they're going to need Ayuk healthy, because Ayuk is such a dynamic pass catcher down the field. And in a game where really they don't need him to be that guy, I don't suspect, even if he does go, that he's going to be heavily involved in this offense. So this is why we like Debo, and this is why we like Kittle. I do think Kittle is going to be the major recipient of the lost targets. We saw at the end of last year the kind of rapport that Purdy had with Kittle, and I do think that's going to continue. I do think that Debo is going to get involved a heck of a lot more in terms of the offense, but I think McCaffrey is going to probably run for close to 200 yards or have 200 all-purpose yards in this game.
Well, here's the only thing that I think is I do think Elijah Mitchell finds his way into this game. Not strong enough to say start, but they already came out and said that Shanahan said that the idea of last week McCaffrey playing 100% of the snaps was not the game plan, and that they need to get Elijah Mitchell involved more. And it just happened the way the dice rolled is Mitchell was not in the game. So I do think if there's a chance that they get up, I think they let Christian McCaffrey go a little bit and let Elijah Mitchell get in there to try and give some rest, because it's a long season. And if McCaffrey's playing 90+% of the snaps every single game, a team that's projected to win the Super Bowl now, it may be something that's going to be tough for them down the road. You don't want a running back breaking down.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this on Eli Mitchell. I'm like, if on your team you had Chubb and you weren't able to get a replacement, and Eli Mitchell is the third running back on your team, and you don't have another guy, I'd feel like this is a game where I probably would roll the dice on him and put him in.
This is the flex play availability here. Sleeper pick. Again, if you have injuries and nobody else out there, like Chris said, somehow you've got Saquon and Chubb, or Eckler and Chubb, or some sort of combination where you got your top two guys are injured and you faded, and this is Eli Mitchell and some other guys are out there. He may have an opportunity to carry the rock a little bit more. In my player prop bets, I'm definitely going to be pushing the over on Elijah Mitchell's rushing yardage because it's very slow. And I'm definitely, like Chris said about George Kittle, I'm hitting the over on the receptions total, which is only about 3.5 right now out there, because I think Kittle's going to eat plenty of opportunities.
Yeah. I do too, and I do think that with Eli Mitchell, like I probably would still, if I had Roschon Johnson, I'd play Roschon Johnson over him.
I agree with you on that.
That's kind of where my ranking would be for him this week. Is he's not ideal, but this is kind of an ideal game where they should be up by 2 or 3 scores. I don't suspect the Giants being really in this game.
It would be a surprise to America. It would be a surprise to even me as a Giants fan that they're going to be in this game, because not only do they have to step up defensively against a very, very good offense that's clicking and firing on all cylinders, they also have to turn around and fire on their side of the offensive ball without their best player. And let's swing over to the Giants lineup here that we have. As you can see, we have zero green here, and that's on purpose. Without Saquon Barkley, who's definitely already out here, it's hard to fire up a running back in this offense. Matt Breida's going to be the next guy up. However, if you go back and look at the stats from last year, he wasn't the guy who carried the most and had the most touches behind Saquon Barkley when he was out. So to me, at the end, Gary Brightwell, I think, was the one who had the most touches, especially in that Week 18 game and other things. So looking at it this way, I think you're not firing up Slayton or Hodges, even though those two guys are going to get plenty of target opportunities because they're going to have to throw the ball. The reason we have Daniel Jones as a sleeper is because if anybody in this offense is going to do something, it's going to be him, and he's going to do it with his legs, and he's going to do it through the air too. But we think Darren Waller is probably going to be the best recipient of it. I know last year 49ers were stingy against tight ends. But again, we always talk about tight ends like Darren Waller. They're not your typical tight end. These guys are wide receivers with big bodies that are built differently. And so that should help him out. But it doesn't give me very much confidence throwing Darren Waller out there. And it definitely doesn't give me confidence throwing Daniel Jones. So the note I want to talk about Daniel Jones, and I'll let you give your thoughts on this offense, even though there's not much, Chris. But
What offense?
Daniel Jones was a guy that people were talking about picking up off waivers because of his second half against the Cardinals last week. And don't get me wrong, I think Daniel Jones is a talented quarterback. Do I think he's a top 10 guy? I'm not sure. He could be top 10 in fantasy just because of his jobs that he could do with his legs. However, here's the thing about this. He is in a position that coming off that game last week into this game is a much more difficult opponent without his best player. It's going to be all in his hands. And you may be in a situation where you drafted Justin Fields or you drafted one of these, Aaron Rodgers, and Daniel Jones was your backup, or you grabbed him off waivers or something like that. He is a guy that I'm not suggesting to start. To me, Baker Mayfield is probably the best streaming option that you could find out there. He's still low owned, and I would go grab him and throw him in your starting lineup because he's got a better opportunity, and he's been playing very good football right now for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Daniel Jones is in a situation where he's going to be running for his life. He's going to be throwing to the same group of guys plus Darren Waller as last year. And I mean, unless San Francisco just doesn't, either they're tired from being a short week or they just underestimate Brian Daboll and their creative minds, I don't think the Giants are going to be able to really move the ball as effective as they were. It's going to be closer to what that Dallas Cowboys game was, but a little bit better considering it's not going to be a true downpour in San Francisco.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you. I think Baker is a guy I probably would stream over Daniel Jones in this game. I would like Daniel Jones a lot more in this game if Saquon was playing and if his offensive line was healthy. I say he's a sleeper, and the reason we have him as a sleeper is because of his rushing ability, and he's going to be running for his life in this game.
He leads the NFL in quarterback rushing yardage right now, just so everybody knows.
Yeah. So I do think that he's going to have at least a high floor. I don't necessarily, he's not going to go off for 30 something points like he did last week. This defense is too, we saw the Cardinals shut him out in a half, in 2 quarters, and this defense is much better, much faster than the Arizona Cardinals, and they can get after the quarterback a heck of a lot better. And so. Yeah. I think that he's going to be under duress the entire game. And so if he does have to scramble, he's going to scramble. But this is the reason we kind of don't like any of the receivers here is because he's going to have to scramble. Like, that's going to be the offense. And, there's going to be some dink and dunks here, but he's going to be getting rid of the ball to whoever he can. If I were to
Darren Waller.
If I were to start any receiver here, it'd be Isaiah Hodges.
Well, that's because he's a red zone target for Daniel Jones. I agree with you there. If you're going to start anybody,
target, so at least he's going to win the one-on-one matchup. Like, I know Jono and I kind of went back and forth today about Jalin Hyatt, and I know Jono typically speaks very subjectively on his New York Giants, and but Jalin Hyatt, as listen, as a deep threat, he's there. I just don't like San Francisco 49ers don't allow deep balls. I mean, you saw what the San Francisco or what the Rams did to them last week, and the reason they were able to score 20 points on them or 23 points on them was because they were dinking and dunking it all game long, and that's not Jalin Hyatt, and that's not what he's going to do. So I would sit him. I mean, like, I couldn't even get to the point where I put him as a sleeper because I don't even think that they're going to have the opportunity to throw deep. So a guy like Darren Waller, a guy like Isaiah Hodgins, who's going to be kind of a short dump-off guy, those are the guys I'd want to start, if anything.
I see Paris Campbell getting a bunch of opportunities, but his ADOT is so low and his yards per reception are so low that it's not a start option, but he's going to be targeted often in this game too, because if he's going to have to get that ball out of his hands quick, it's going to be to those slot receivers, and he's been playing the most snaps out of the slot for the Giants right now.
Yeah, I just think like if I have the option to not play a Giant this week, like I'm taking it. Like,
I agree.
Thursday night game, it's this is what we kind of went back and forth on today too, is like with a lot of the sleepers, and if we had 2 or 3 sleepers in this game, it's on a Thursday night game. Like, even though they're a sleeper, like I don't necessarily. I think that there are better options there on Sunday, and a heck of a lot more games and better matchups. Like, at least with some of the sleepers we want to give you, like, we at least want like a good matchup, and the matchup just sucks here for everyone on the Giants. And
I fought with Chris about the Jalin Hyatt thing, and I'm gonna still double back on my word from our waivers episode. If you haven't seen it, go back and look at that, because your league mates might have missed some people on there. I had Jalin Hyatt as a waiver wire pickup this week as a stash opportunity.
But instead you spent your entire fab on Jerome Ford.
I'm not mad about it.
No,
I'm not mad about it. I'm actually,
a lot of leagues where they've gone like 90% of their fab or higher to go and get him.
Yeah, great. I mean, we don't have to talk about Jerome Ford. Go look at our thoughts on that there. But the thing about Hyatt that I like is, people were talking about Marvin Mims. A lot of the other experts were saying Marvin Mims is your guy. The biggest difference between Marvin Mims and Hyatt in that game was one scored a touchdown and one didn't. And obviously touchdowns matter. But to me, it just showed a spark of a guy that they put some draft capital in. They traded up with the Rams in the 3rd round to go get this guy. He was the first receiver off the board in a team that needed a receiver. So they obviously think are working him in slowly, but it just opened up their offense a little bit more because he started running a little bit more routes. You have to protect against that, so you can't let him get over top of you because you can't catch up to him. It's a little bit reminiscent of a Tyreek Hill situation. He's not as quick with his feet and his route running, but his straight line speed is dangerous. So if you lose a step on him, he's gone. And I wouldn't be surprised if by the second half of the season they're finding ways multiple times a game to get him opportunities. Reminiscent of kind of Deshaun Jackson in a way where he just took off, and if the guy wasn't ready to get his motor going, he burned you, and all you got to do is get him the ball in the air. So that's the only thing I do like about Hyatt here, and not in this game though.
You're not wrong in those in that kind of mentality on him and that kind of attitude on him. The difference is with Denver and Marvin Mims, he's on a team that ran the ball 14 times.
Yes, it's true.
And that is the identity of the New York Giants is run the football, either with Saquon Barkley or with Daniel Jones. And they're going to dump it off and spread the ball out to a bunch of other guys.
I don't disagree.
Are there going to be enough targets to make Jalin Hyatt fantasy relevant?
In weeks right now, when you don't have Saquon Barkley, and this is a tough matchup here, but if they were playing any other team but the 49ers, I think it would be something that we'd be talking about a little bit, because in my opinion,
it wasn't Thursday night and it wasn't against the 49ers. Yeah, I might share the same sentiment as you, but it is a Thursday night game. And it is against the 49ers. And this is why we kind of, it's just a straight sit for us. Like, I don't, is there going to be a receiver that has a decent game in this game? Yeah, but I'm willing to roll the dice. I'm willing to roll the dice that it's going to be not in this game, not with the New York Giants, and you're going to be able to find someone that you can play on Sunday that's going to have much better opportunities than these guys today. Now, season long, a different story with Hyatt. Same thing with Deshaun Jackson.
I have him as
was always on a team that threw the ball deep. And that's just not the Giants.
But this was the identity. Like, Daniel Jones was successful throwing the ball deeper than he was at shallow crosses and shallow routes. He had better accuracy with it, but we never had it. Like, we had Darius
Nolan Ryan fastball to a guy that was 2 feet away.
Evan Ingram, multiple times. But Darius Slayton's always been our deep guy on the sideline. He's pretty fast. He's good. And you've seen him connect multiple times in the season last year and the year before with Slayton. But now you've got a better deep threat in Hyatt that they're working in. He's learning the offense. He's learning the playbook. They're putting packages together, I'm sure, for him. If he gets himself loose as a guy out there, many more opportunities, I think the Giants are in a position to air it out more times than they're not, because you also do have to protect against Saquon Barkley when he's in there. But in situations when he's not, they're going to probably, throw 1.5 times more than they normally do, because they're not handing the ball off 20 to 25 times to someone like Saquon. So I like it. But again, it's not a play for tonight. It's a stash play, just like some of our other waiver picks were kind of stash plays, like Roschon Johnson, which maybe turning into less of a stash play and more of this guy's going to be playing for them. And Marvin Mims is another guy who's a stash play. He's only getting about 2 receptions a game, but if he starts up in the ante in that and starts getting a rapport with Russell Wilson, it's another guy. So, well, I mean, that's it for the Thursday football preview. Expect high points from the Niners and expect expect little from the Giants, but to be honest with you, the Giants have surprised me many more times in the past that I wouldn't be surprised if this is an interesting game, but I doubt it. Just when you're missing your best player on the board, it's tough to kind of get over that hurdle first. But that being said, if you like our picks and like our thoughts, leave a comment. Feel free to tell us your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that notification button so you get all the updates as we drop them. Do not forget, we are going to update a little bit of our thoughts on Cam Akers in a short, so that notification button tell you when we drop that, as well as our Saturday morning episode on the starts and sits for the weekend.
Yeah, we'll continue to work on those breathing exercises, really, really inhaling, hold in that oxygen, nice slow release. It
was good advice. I did see that in the comments. That was great advice. Shout out. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you later this week.